2 Samuel chapter 20. A new scene of distress to David opens this episode. Not everyone is happy about David's return to Jerusalem. Sheba, a Benjamite, is regarded in this episode as a troublemaker and the one who attempted to instigate a civil war. When Amasa is commissioned to marshal an army to go against Sheba, we see a drastic twist in the episode. Finally, David's army under the leadership of Joab pursued Sheba to Abel Beth-maachah, seeking to quell the rebellion. When the whole city became the target for Joab's army, a wise woman played a diplomatic role and saved her city. Sheba was beheaded and the war was over. Sheba rebels against David, verses 1-2. Sheba was the son of Bichri, a descendant of Becher, the second son of Benjamin. Genesis 46:21. He was there at Gilgal with the representatives of the 10 tribes who requested David to be their king. However, there were few in that group like Sheba who did not want David to be their king. Just as Hosanna to the Son of David was soon changed to crucify him, here arose a signal of revolt. Sheba sounded the trumpet to draw off the Israelites from David and gather a party to himself. Though nothing is known of this man, he must have been a person of considerable power and influence to raise so sudden and extensive a sedition. Sheba had a grudge against David for the removal of the kingdom out of Saul's tribe of Benjamin to David's tribe of Judah. He sought to overturn David's authority in Israel. Calling David as Jesse's son is an expression of contempt. It implied their rejection of David and that he was no more to be owned as their king but as a private person, just Jesse's son. Sheba's declaration that the 10 northern tribes had no part in David's realm was similar to the words used later in 1 Kings 12:16 when Israel seceded from the United Kingdom under Jeroboam. Every man to his tent is a proverbial expression. This withdrawal home signified the rejection of David's government. It was so ordered by the providence of God that Sheba should be present at this time for the further fulfillment of the threatening to David that the sword should not depart from his house. The dispute offered an immediate opening to the bold and ambitious leader Sheba, who hoped to restore the sovereignty to the tribe of Benjamin. Judah, among whom the rebellion originated, that is, with Absalom, were now fierce in their loyalty to David, while Israel, who had only joined the already organized rebellion and afterwards had first proposed the return of David, had become alienated and rebellious. The men of Israel, that is, the 10 tribes of Israel, escorted David 15 miles from Jordan to Gilgal. But after listening to this radical Sheba, there they left him. But the men of Judah escorted the king another 40 miles all the way to Jerusalem. David's concubines confined, verse 3. These concubines are the ones David had left behind in Jerusalem, whom Absalom had taken as his own. 2 Samuel chapter 15 verse 16 and chapter 16 verse 22. When David returned to Jerusalem, he confined his concubines to a life of abstinence because of their sexual relations with Absalom. They lived in widowhood while their husband was still alive. David tells Amasa to marshal an army to deal with Sheba's rebellion. Verse 4. Then the king said to Amasa, "Summon the men of Judah to come to me within 3 days, and be there yourself." Amasa was made commander of David's army after Absalom's death instead of Joab. He was previously the leader of Absalom's army. Since this change would please the people of Israel, that is the 10 tribes who had followed Absalom, David appointed Amasa as the commander of his army. Amasa was told to assemble an army in 3 days to end the insurrection started by Sheba. This was the first command given by David to Amasa. Joab possibly could have gathered these people in 3 days. Amasa missed his target. Verse 5. But when Amasa went to summon Judah, he took longer than the time the king had set for him. Whether this was owing to the remissness of Amasa or the unwillingness of the people to serve under him, or the people were wearied out of the late war, or because the soldiers had more affection to Joab than to their new general Amasa, or not having sufficient time, or because Amasa for his own interests or delays to render himself more necessary and useful to the king is not certain. But the fact that Amasa was not loyal in the execution of the royal commission suggests great doubt of Amasa's fitness for the place David had promised him. Now, we certainly shouldn't forget that Amasa had joined forces with Absalom against David in previous chapters. So, he wasn't exactly an innocent party in this. Abishai commissioned to marshal an army to deal with Sheba's rebellion, verses 6-7. When Amasa failed to assemble troops in this insurrection crisis, which required immediate action, David gave the commission to Abishai, Joab's brother. The commission was to not let Sheba secure himself in fortified cities where he may hold siege a long time. If Sheba settles in such a secure place, David will lose sight of him, and this would be a great trouble for David. Abishai was commanded to take his master's men, that is Joab's men, to pursue the tribal leader Sheba. Joab was already degraded from being David's captain. Though David feared that another uprising will be formed by Joab, dreading the loss of time in dealing with Sheba, David had no other option than to get the help from Joab's men. Under the command of Abishai, Joab's men and the Kerethites and Pelethites and all the mighty warriors went after Sheba before he could get an uprising started. Kerethites and Pelethites were from the Philistine clan who dwelt along the Mediterranean coast and attached themselves to David whilst he was an outlaw. 1 Samuel 22:2. These elite mercenaries were employed by King David, some as his bodyguards and others as part of his army. Joab went also, being determined to take vengeance on his rival Amasa. Joab purposes to stab Amasa. Verse 8. Having collected some forces, Amasa marched rapidly and came to the great rock in Gibeon, thus assuming the role of the commander. Gibeon is a territory in Benjamin, 5 miles north of Jerusalem. The Great Rock was probably some isolated rock well known in the neighborhood. David had replaced his commander Joab with Amasa, who had been Absalom's general. 2 Samuel 17:25. Because of this demotion, Joab finds an opportunity to murder Amasa. Verse 8. Joab was wearing his military tunic, and strapped over it at his waist was a belt with a dagger in its sheath. As he stepped forward, it dropped out of its sheath. The object of this verse is to explain how Joab, in consequence of the arrangement of his dress, was able to stab Amasa without his purpose being suspected. He then picked this up naturally in his left hand so as to have his right hand free for the customary salutation. Joab used this ploy to gain a comfortable position to stab the new commander Amasa. Deceptive greeting of Joab. Verse 9. Joab said to Amasa, "How are you, my brother?" Then Joab took Amasa by the beard with his right hand to kiss him. Joab greets Amasa in an affectionate and loving appellation as brother, since indeed Amasa and Joab are first cousins. Joab's warm and brotherly demeanor made Amasa feel secure. As is a salutation custom among the eastern people, Joab caught hold of Amasa's beard with the right hand to give him a kiss of welcome. Joab thus gained a very comfortable position to stab Amasa. The sword continues to devour. Verse 10. Amasa, having no suspicion of Joab's wicked plot, was not upon his guard to defend himself against the dagger in Joab's left hand. Joab plunged the dagger into Amasa's belly, and his intestines spilled out on the ground. In the same place where Abner smote Asahel and Joab smote Abner, 2 Samuel 2:23 and 2 Samuel 3:27, Joab, an expert with the dagger, struck Amasa. He struck so fiercely that no second blow was necessary. Amasa was already dead. Below would be Joab's justification for killing Amasa. 1. Joab considered Amasa as usurping his post. 2. Joab believed Amasa to be conspiring with Sheba due to Amasa's slowness to mobilize the army against Sheba's rebels. It was Joab's personal jealousy and ambition that made him kill Amasa. Though David pardoned Amasa for leading the rebel army led by Absalom and promoted him as commander in his own army, yet the providence of God would not allow him to go unpunished for joining with Absalom in an unnatural rebellion against his uncle David. Joab and Amasa were cousins. They were blood brothers. King David was their uncle. 1 Chronicles 2:16-17. So Nathan's prophecy in 2 Samuel 12:10 that the sword would never depart from your house happened again. Then Joab and his brother Abishai pursued Sheba, son of Bichri, as if Amasa's death was a matter of little importance. Joab takes command of the troops loyal to David. Verse 11. Time was too precious for Joab himself to wait. He must put down the rebellion of Sheba by rapid action and thereby render himself impregnable in the high office which he has now usurped from Amasa. He left one of his trusty men by the body of Amasa to suggest that Amasa was a traitor and that he had been rightly put to death for his doubtful loyalty. The man said, "Whoever favors Joab and whoever is for David, let him follow Joab." Amasa's last rites, verses 12-13. It appears that Amasa's body wallowed in the gushing blood from his body. He was in the middle of the road and the men would have had to stop and walk over him to pass by to Joab. But since the sight was shocking, terrible and tragic, they all stopped and stood still. Joab did not bury Amasa's body or show him any honor. Then a man removed the body so that the soldiers would not notice it. This shows Joab's rather cruel character. He was a very strong man, but he did not seem to care much about anyone else, and he did not want anyone to rule him. Verse 13. After Amasa had been removed from the road, everyone went on with Joab to pursue Sheba, son of Bichri. It's a striking illustration of Joab's influence over the army that he could murder the commander whom David had chosen, a killing right before their eyes, and they would still follow him unanimously as their leader in pursuit of Sheba. Sheba gathers forces and seeks refuge in Abel Bethmaachah. Verse 14. It appears that Sheba went from tribe to tribe northward, trying to get an army together to fight against David. Very few would side in with Sheba. It shows that all of the tribes of Israel supported David. Sheba, getting very less help from the tribes of Israel, reached the extreme north of the land of Israel, that is Abel Bethmaachah, to seek refuge. As David anticipated, Sheba went into this fortified city to hide. Abel Bethmaachah, a fortress in the land of Naphtali, 2 Kings 15:29, is about 25 miles north of the Sea of Galilee, 1074 feet above the Mediterranean sea level, and 103 miles north of Jerusalem. Bichrites are the relatives of Bichri, who was the father of Sheba. All the chosen men of war whom Sheba gathered went after him. Siege ramp built up to Abel Bethmaachah city. Verse 15. The city was fortified by two walls, the outer wall and the inner wall. Joab's troops began to build a siege ramp up against the high defensive outer wall. Once the ramp was built, Joab's troops began to batter, that is, beat repeatedly to demolish the inner wall to gain entry. The whole city was going to suffer for one bad man, Sheba. Speech of a wise woman in Abel Bethmaachah, verses 16-19. A wise woman called from upon the wall of the city to Joab's men who were underneath battering it. "Listen, listen," she repeated, to make them hear. She is called wise because of the immediate prudent decision she had made to do something before the whole city was destroyed. She does not want to speak to just anyone who had no authority, but wants to speak to the acting commander of the troops, Joab. In verse 17, Joab responds in a respectful way to this woman. Before she proceeded to talk to Joab, the woman wanted to get a confirmation that 1. He was really the commander general, 2. He was ready to listen to her. Joab's confirmation for the above gave her permission to proceed. Verse 18, she continued, "Long ago they used to say, 'Get your answer at Abel,' and that settled it." Abel had been proverbial for its wisdom from ancient times. Men consulted it as an oracle for the settlement of their disputes. Abel was once famous for the wisdom of its inhabitants. 1 Kings 4:30-31. The wise woman was herself a remnant of this source of traditional wisdom. In verse 19, the woman speaks in the name of the city, asserting its peaceableness and loyalty. Abel Beth-Maachah, meaning the meadow of the house of Maachah, had numerous water sources and rich agricultural hinterland. This made Abel Beth-Maachah a specially honored city. It was noted for its historical importance and geographical prominence. It was called a mother in Israel because several nearby villages depended on this city. This woman was making an appeal to Joab based on the laws of warfare. The law of Moses states in Deuteronomy 20:10-12 that before anyone goes to attack a city, he must first seek peace with the land. Only if they refuse to make peace, a siege should be laid to the city. She means to say that Joab should have asked them for terms of peace before laying siege. If Joab, upon approaching the city, proposed his terms of peace, they would have immediately yielded to him, and so the matter would have ended at once, for they were the peaceful and faithful people in Israel. By thus not asking for peace and violating the law of Moses, Joab was bringing a punishment by God. He was wanting to swallow up and destroy the Lord's inheritance, that is, the land of Israel. She is saying that her city and herself are willing to negotiate peace. They do not want to be in a war with their very own people. She wants Joab to give them a chance to prove their faithfulness. Joab strongly disclaims the idea of destroying the city. Verse 20. Far be it from me, Joab replied. Far be it from me to swallow up or destroy. He repeats these words to show how detestable it is for him to destroy the city of which he had given such a great legacy of greatness and worth. It is not Joab's intention to destroy innocent people. He was ready to put a stop to further bloodshed. The end of Sheba's rebellion, verses 21-22. Verse 21. That is not the case. A man named Sheba, son of Bichri, from the hill country of Ephraim, has lifted up his hand against the king, against David. Hand over this one man, and I'll withdraw from the city. The woman said to Joab, his head will be thrown to you from the wall. What a blessed compromise this was. Negotiations ended, and the townspeople killed Sheba and gave his head as a proof to Joab. Joab describes Sheba as being from the hill country of Ephraim because the range of the Mount Ephraim extended south to the territory of Benjamin. Joab identified the head as Sheba's and blew the trumpet for the men to stop the siege. They had been victorious under the leadership of Joab. Joab had re-established himself as commander of David's army. He now goes back to Jerusalem victorious. The wisdom of the wise woman saved her city, David's reputation, Joab's career, and many innocent lives. David's officials, verses 23-26. Here is a short summary of the chief men of David's reign. A similar summary has already been given in 2 Samuel 8:16-18, and the changes introduced here mark a later period of the reign. It is noticeable that Joab still retains his post in spite of David's resolution to depose him. David could not get rid of Joab. He had to ignore the murder of Amasa and recognize Joab as army commander. Verse 24. Adoniram was in charge of forced labor. Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, was recorder. God had made a law that the Israelites should not be slaves to each other. Leviticus 25:39-42. Adoniram made sure that forced labor was not imposed on people on their current projects such as building of highways, temples and houses. Exodus 1:11, Joshua 16:10 and Judges 1:28. The recorder Jehoshaphat kept accurate records of events. Verse 26. And Ira the Jairite was David's priest. He was David's royal advisor. He was a descendant of Jair, a Manassite, who dwelt in the country of Jair in Gilead. Numbers 32:41. 2 Samuel chapter 20, questions and answers.